Welcome to part 5 of chapter 2. In this part, we'll talk about some high level global trends in project management and how those high level trends impact projects and project managers. So, there are the following trends nowadays that affect IT project management. Number one is globalization. As you probably have heard before, this catchphrase that the world is becoming one global village, meaning that there are lower trade and political barriers among countries, and the digital revolution has made it possible to interact almost instantaneously with billions of other people across the planet. So all those things, like internet technologies, communication technologies, lower trade barriers, simplified travel arrangements, where it's easier to travel through, by using airplanes and all those things. So all those trends they make global communication and collaboration easier. So because of that, a lot of IT consulting companies nowadays, they are global companies. They have offices all over the world. So for example, if you take any kind of well-known IT consulting companies such as Accenture, Tata Consulting, Infosys, Wipro, they will have offices all over the world, right? So it's hard even to say whether it's an Indian company or American company because they operate globally across the globe. Now, globalization sometimes is a good thing because globalization allows you to rapidly respond to client needs across the globe. You can rapidly assemble teams from different countries with the kind of bundle and collection of expertise that you need for your project. But this is also a downside. I mean, sometimes it's challenging and it's nerve-wracking to do things on a global scale because you will have to deal with things like, geographical distance. Although flying nowadays made the travel very easy, it's still hard on your health. It's still hard on your personal life. Like when consultants, a lot of consultants say that when they start their job with a particular well-known consulting company, they basically spend 4 days a week, outside of their home location. They're flying somewhere, right? And at first they like it, but then it really adds to their stress. And then other things like time differences, cross-cultural communication, where you suddenly realize that communication is not just about understanding the words that come out of somebody's mouth, although even this can be a problem because of different accents, different versions of different languages. You can have problems even understanding basic instructions, basic commands from different people. But it's also about mentality because, again, communication is not just the words that come out of your mouth. It's also how people think, what are their assumptions, what are their beliefs, what kind of moral or ethical stances they have on issues, right? So all those things make collaboration on a global scale very hard and sometimes a nerve-wracking experience. Because of globalization, outsourcing is a popular trend. When we talk about outsourcing something to another country, they usually call it offshoring. So, for example, nowadays, a lot of banks in the United States, they outsource their customer support to the Philippines or India. A lot of companies outsource their IT development to India or China or somewhere in Eastern Europe. But even without crossing any geographical boundaries, nowadays a lot of organizations, when they have a particular need to develop a new information system, they prefer to outsource it to another company. Or if they have a need to support their existing IT infrastructure, they will also hire an external contractor for that. They do outsourcing. Companies do outsourcing, offshoring for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is cost savings. Sometimes it's cheaper to hire somebody outside. Sometimes companies simply don't have any resources on the inside. Everybody's busy. You cannot really assign anybody to this new project, so they need to bring somebody from the outside. And sometimes they lack expertise. Let's say they do have human resources available to work on a particular project, but they don't have enough expertise to initiate a particular IT or telecommunications project. And sometimes it's related to politics. Some companies like to bring a consultant from outside to implement a project because they believe that an outsider will not be consumed, will not be lost in all those political connections and struggles that people may have within the organization. Because an external consultant knows that he or she is hired temporarily. His or her job is to come in to get the job done, and then he'll be off to another project, another organization. So he's not looking to make any friends or enemy, or he's not looking to avoid making enemies, right? So an external consultant will do what's right, what he or she was hired for, without being consumed by politics that much, or at least not to the extent that internal staff may be involved in politics. Virtual teams is another popular trend that is once again somehow related to globalization, because a lot of projects nowadays are done on a global scale. People have no choice but to coordinate things remotely online. Now, initially, people thought that doing things online is cheap and easy because you don't have to travel, you don't have to show up physically. But then, of course, they realized that coordinating things online is actually twice as hard and requires twice as much time and resources. Sometimes a 5-minute face-to-face meeting can resolve an issue that could not be resolved by 5 days of emailing back and forth, right? So virtual teams are very common in project management nowadays, but at the same time they bring a lot of challenge. You need to have special devotion to communication, to coordination when you're coordinating things online as a part of a particular project. So those trends collectively, they shape how IT projects are conducted nowadays. So that completes part 5 of chapter 2. Thank you for listening.